Somehow it's gotten worse. The Acolyte did not open to very good reception. It got very low scores from the audiences, especially like on Rotten Tomatoes. I think it set the record for the lowest rated Star Wars project ever, a title that was previously held by the Star Wars Holiday Special, which I think was universally agreed upon as the worst thing Star Wars has ever produced. And so to get below that is quite the accomplishment. But after watching the first 2 episodes, I had no interest in continuing. I did plan on finishing it though, just after all the episodes had come out. I just wanted to do it all in one sitting, get it over with, post a review, then be done with it. But then episode 3 dropped, and I saw how people were talking about it, just the massive claims they were making that this is the worst episode. This might be the worst thing Star Wars has ever put out. That this might break the fandom, which, some could argue has already happened. So I was like, oh my goodness, these are some massive claims that people are saying. I gotta check this out. And so I did check it out, and I gotta say that episode was hard to watch. Ooh, man. That was not an enjoyable experience. Episode 3 is a flashback episode, which I am not a big fan of flashback episodes. So that kind of already set me off on this episode at the very beginning. I like flashbacks every now and again, but I like them being very small pieces of episodes, not entire episodes. And so I wasn't a huge fan of that choice from the get-go. But pretty much all that episode 3 is, all that it covers, is what we've heard Sol and May and Osha, I don't remember her name. What we've heard them talk about with their backstory. The burning of their village and how May set fire to it all. So it's pretty much all information that we already knew, but we're just seeing it again, which is another problem I have with this episode, is that it's completely unnecessary. We know that May started the fire that apparently killed their family of space witches. And we already know that Osha eventually was trained by Sol, and we also know that May fell down a pit and was presumed dead. Like, we know all this information. We know it as the audience. The characters in the story already know this. I don't know why we gotta run through this again. I think the true purpose of this episode is to foreshadow the fact that the Jedi aren't all they seem, and that they're actually kind of the villains of this show. Which, fine, whatever, I guess you can do that. But I think to make this more effective, you wait for the flashback till episode 7 or episode 6, maybe at the earliest. Make the viewer kind of believe that the Jedi are good, and then put that twist in towards the end to build to a climactic finish in episode 8. But instead we get this kind of pointless flashback episode. That's probably the biggest problem I have with this episode, but there are a ton of smaller things within this episode as well. One, it's boring. It's a boring episode because we already know all this information. So because we know all of this and what's going to happen, there's no real stakes. We're not really seeing anything new, so there's nothing for me to be interested in. But the information we are given within this episode is really frustrating. I think the biggest of these is learning that May and Osha don't have a father, that they're beings born out of the Force, which may trigger something in your mind. You may be thinking, I remember a pretty important character in Star Wars also having a similar backstory. And you would be right. There is a major character in Star Wars who was born that way, whose name was Anakin Skywalker, the chosen one. You're telling me two random twins were born the same way that Anakin Skywalker was. Something that made him different from everyone else. Something that kind of turned Qui-Gon Jinn onto the fact that this guy might be the chosen one. We're just gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing 100 years before. Like, I don't understand. This just goes to further tarnish the character of Anakin. Something Disney just loves doing, by the way. I don't understand this. This is so unnecessary. All that it does is, 1, it angers fans, and 2, again, it tarnishes Anakin's character and makes things that were special about him way less special. Same thing that happened with Rey when she was the one who defeated Palpatine. It devalued, it tarnished Anakin's sacrifice at the end of Return of the Jedi. Disney keeps doing this, and it's really frustrating. I don't get why this needed to be in there. It didn't. The only reason it's in here is to make these characters seem more special than they actually are. The other frustrating thing was the thread. The thread is how these space witches defined the Force. And you know what? I'm going to be honest. The idea behind the thread is actually kind of cool. I actually like this. This is a cool avenue to kind of explore, you know? What do other cultures, peoples think of the Force? But the way it's portrayed is just, it misses the mark. It misses the mark. It portrays the thread as being the right way to view the Force. It comes across as the showrunners trying to force on the viewer their view of the Force. And that this is the right way. This is how you should view the Force. I'm not into that. We know what the Force is already. It's okay to explore what other people might think the Force is, but to try to change what it is to fit your own vision, it's just, that doesn't sit right with people. And it comes across wrong on screen. So I checked out episode 3, saw how bad it was. I thought, okay, I can be done watching The Acolyte for now, wait until all the episodes release, go along with my original plan. And then this week, episode 4 came out, and people were saying this was even worse than episode 3. And I said, hold on. Episode 3 set a really high bar. Like, this is the standard of bad Star Wars episode. Like, this is the pinnacle. Anything above that is just, like, that's crazy. Like, that can't be possible, right? And so, again, I was lured into watching episode 4. I gotta say, 1, it's not as bad as episode 3. I understand why people are upset with episode 4. I, too, have my qualms with episode 4. I did not enjoy my experience watching episode 4. I don't think it's as bad as episode 3. Episode 4 is just both the villain side and the hero side walking towards one destination. That is the entire episode. It is about a 30-minute long episode of just walking. There's just so much walking. The entire episode is just people walking. And besides it just being boring in general, and there being a lot of walking, I think there are a couple of character decisions that just make absolutely no sense. For one, Osha. At the beginning of the episode, Osha's like, I've done what I've set out to do. My sister's alive. I know that now. I'm good. This is Jedi business now. Which, when hearing that, I was like, 1, okay, I guess. But 2, you haven't really done anything in this series so far. So why are you just running away now? And then not even like 5 minutes later, she talks with Soul and is like, you know what? I'm back in. Why put that in the beginning? It makes no sense. And then she talks with the Padawan about this. They have no relationship. They had like maybe 1 or 2 pieces of dialogue in episode 1 and 2. And now we just assume that they're best friends. And there's been no effort in the previous 3 episodes to set up any sort of connection between these characters, other than the fact that they've both been in location 1 and location 2. Also, with the other sister, May, towards the end of the episode, just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she goes up to Scrawny Boy, who I can't remember the name of, and I don't even think the show has given him a name. I can't remember, maybe they have. She goes up to him and she's like, hey man, I'm done with this crap. I want to be a good guy now. This whole killing a Jedi without a weapon thing is impossible, and I don't want anything to do with it anymore. My sister's alive. That completely changes all my motivations. Everything that I've been training for the past however long, maybe 10, 15 years. So I'm just going to go to the good side now. You have a great time here in the forest. I'm just watching that and going like, why? Why has she changed? Nothing throughout the 3 episodes has pointed to the fact that she was going to change, that she was going to switch sides. They haven't set anything up. Her relationship with her sister has not seemed very strong at all throughout this series. Osha seems pretty content with having her Jedi friends kill May. These sisters do not seem like they're on the best of terms. And yet all of a sudden she's just like, my sister's alive. That means I can be good now. I'm just sitting there watching this like, why? Why are you making this decision? It makes no sense. Oh. And then we finally get a Wookiee Jedi, something that I think a lot of fans have looked forward to, something that's really, something that would be a really cool concept. And then May finally walks in. We're finally going to see this dude in action. And then he's dead. The Dark Lord guy has already gotten to him. It's just like, you had a cool character, something people were looking forward to see, and then you kill him the first chance you get. It's so bad. It's so bad. It's like, why are you doing this? Anyway, Wookiee's dead. The Jedi arrive. May's there. And then all of a sudden, the Dark Lord shows up. Or, as many people online have started calling him, Smilo Ren, which I really like. That's a really good nickname. Smilo Ren shows up, ignites his red lightsaber, and then all the Jedi ignite their lightsabers too. And then they go charging in all at once. and he force pushes them out, and then that's how the episode ends. What? I also think this is just a bad way to end an episode, because it really cheats your viewers of any substance within the episode. Because the episode is just so much walking and is all leading up to the Wookiee's hut, for it to finally get there, these viewers have sat through all this walking up into this point. They should be rewarded by at least a somewhat decent fight sequence. But then just to tease it at the end, that's like a huge slap into the face to your viewership. Why would you stop a fight midway through and end an episode? It makes no sense to me. It's a poor move, and I don't think that's gonna win fans over. I know what you're trying to do, trying to get them to come back to see what happens, but I don't think you've done enough within the first 4 episodes to keep fans coming back, if they're even watching at this point at all. And then I gotta address the one thing that I feel like so many people are talking about, and that's Ki-Adi-Mundi showing up in episode 4. I gotta agree with the most part. It makes no sense why he's showing up. Why does he need to be here? Because I've seen a lot of theories online like, oh, they're gonna use him to cover up this whole Sith appearance so that the Phantom Menace makes sense. And I might be wrong in my thought process. Let me know. But you don't have to have him or anyone else on the Jedi Council in the show for a cover-up to make sense. Like Venestra, I think that's how you say her name, the Jedi Master is just like, we gotta keep this on the down low. She seems pretty intent on not letting the Jedi Council know. So in my opinion, it's like, it's already kind of being covered up. I don't think we need to have someone from the prequels in the show for it to make sense why this was covered up. So to me, it's just pointless. And then it's the choice of who they picked to show up in the show. A lot of Star Wars fans have pointed out that in Legends, Ki-Adi-Mundi is not even alive at this point in the timeline. And so to not only have him alive in the show, appear in the show, but also have him be like 40 years old at this point is really strange, and also doesn't make much sense. But I will just say, I don't really mind them changing his birth year. To me, that doesn't make much of a difference. I mean, he looks old in the prequels anyway. But it doesn't make me wonder, like, why do we have to go to such lengths as changing an already established character's birthday to throw in some fan service in there? Especially when, if you kind of just think about it a little bit, this fan service and this cameo will only make fans mad. So when you think about it in that way, it just doesn't make sense in general. Story-wise, it doesn't make sense. And canonically, it doesn't make much sense. And I guess now canonically, he was alive at this time. But it doesn't make sense to mess with some pre-established stuff just for this cameo. It's not a huge thing that's going to make people watch this show. Like, I don't think many Star Wars fans are going to see that Ki-Adi-Mundi's in this and be like, oh, I gotta watch The Acolyte. If they're not watching already, they're not going to watch. Especially now. The Acolyte episodes 3 and 4 they were tough to watch. But after watching these episodes, I'm really starting to believe that this show was supposed to be a movie. That when they wrote the show, when they wrote the scripts, that this was supposed to be a movie. But then some higher ups at Lucasfilm saw the success of The Mandalorian and kind of saw how Marvel movies were going, how a lot of people were going to streaming instead of movie theaters, and were like, okay, we got to make this a show now. And so they're having to find ways to pad the runtime. They're having to throw things in there just to make episode links make sense and to justify an 8-episode series. Because for whatever reason, Disney is so intent on making every single one of these shows 8 episodes, and it doesn't make much sense to me. And so if that is the case, I kind of feel bad for the creators of this show. Just a tad bit, because I think this show, although I don't really think even if it was a movie would be great, I think it would be a little less boring. Like, I think it would have been just a little bit better. Look, The Acolyte has not been great. And again, technically there's still hope because we still have 4 episodes left, but again, it's not looking good for The Acolyte. But that's what I thought about The Acolyte episodes 3 and 4. Let me know down in the comment section below what you guys thought. Thank you all so much for stopping by and watching the video. It really means a lot to me. If you enjoyed the video, go ahead, give it a like. Go ahead, subscribe. I hate asking for these things, but it really does help support the channel. But like always, you guys just watching this video is enough for me. Thank you guys again for watching. I really appreciate it. And I love you guys. And hope you all have an incredible day. And until next time, peace out, bro skillets.